Scott Benton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak in this adjournment debate. This is government partly elected on a promise to level up to ensure that my constituents in Blackpool receive exactly the same life chances as people in every single part of our United Kingdom. My local authority is statistically the local authority most in need of levelling up. Indeed, I probably represent the most deprived constituency in England, and I'm delighted to say, thanks to the unprecedented commitment and support from this government, our levelling up progress is indeed going from strength to strength. £300 million. That's a figure of additional revenue and capital investment which has flown into Blackpool South as a consequence of the faith and confidence provided by this government in the work going on locally. And of course, it's very easy to speak about levelling up, and sometimes political figures from different parties will want to see evidence of what's actually happened, spades in the ground, to address some of those systemic challenges in Blackpool and many other left behind towns. Now, we know levelling up isn't a 4 or 5 year project, it's an intergenerational challenge which will take commitment from both main political parties over decades and decades, if indeed it is to bear any substantial fruit. But thankfully, the investment we have received is leading to spades in the ground in Blackpool, and we are now reaping the reward of that confidence which the government has shown in us. Now, frankly, Madam Deputy Speaker, I could be here until midnight discussing all of the different funding pots which this government has provided to Blackpool South, but to indulge the House, I'll just take a few moments to give you a flavour of some of the positive initiatives which are taking place in my constituency, starting with the largest towns deal in the whole country, £39.5 million coming into Blackpool to deliver a plethora of different projects. A new sports village at Revo in conjunction with Blackpool Football Club, an upgrade to the world famous illuminations helping to create thousands of jobs at Blackpool Enterprise Zone, and a new start-up hub in the town centre. Moving on, £40 million for a brand new multiversity skills complex from the Levelling Up Fund, which will not only change immeasurably a very deprived part of Blackpool, but it will also lead to breaking down some of those educational challenges and stopping the brain drain we see with our youngsters when they leave Key Stage 5. £8 million from the Levelling Up budget to convert a derelict hotel in the town centre. £8.6 million from the Future High Streets Fund to fund developments to the Hounds Hill Shopping Centre and the Abingdon Street Market, both of which are well underway at the moment. And an additional £40 million as well to relocate the court complex, which will allow the largest single private sector development project in the whole of Lancashire to go ahead over the next few years. £300 million worth of capital investment coming into Blackpool to create millions of pounds of additional consumer spend every single year and thousands of extra jobs, all thanks to this government's commitment to levelling up Blackpool. But we won't stop there, because the list is endless, Madam Deputy Speaker. £10 million extra in educational funding, because we are an opportunity area, helping to close those gaps which have emerged as a consequence of the COVID pandemic. A £25 million new upgrade to our A&E, which now means the front door of A&E has been completely rejuvenated, leading to shorter waiting times in A&E and helping patients move throughout their journey in the hospital. £67.8 million in writing off the historical debt to Blackpool Teaching Hospitals NHS Trust, meaning that more money can now be freed up for the front line to spend on patients rather than in debt receipts. £20 million for new electric buses, £9.5 million from the Bus and Light Rail Fund, £4.8 million for Operation Adder to help remove some of the drug gangs which cause misery to my constituents off the streets of Blackpool. And only in the last few weeks we received a multi-million-pound funding settlement to help youth offending initiatives in Blackpool, led by the exemplary Dave Blacker and the Blackpool Boys and Girls Club. A brilliant initiative which will change the lives of people in one of the country's most deprived wards. In addition to that, I've nearly finished. We have £118 million in flood defence work going on in Blackpool, which will secure the front of the world-famous Blackpool seafront. Over £5 million helping to address rough sleeping and homelessness, and £4.8 million from the Cultural Recovery Fund being spent by a variety of different projects, including the fantastic Blackpool Theatre Group. All in all, £300 million of investment coming into Blackpool. And it's very easy, Madam Deputy Speaker, to reel off a list of different investments which come into each particular area. But I can honestly say, having seen firsthand the changes which this is making, it is turning people's lives around. It's helping to address those educational challenges, give people who've been out of the jobs market for years a new foothold and commitment to our society to find a job and to contribute, addressing some of those systemic health inequalities which have plagued Blackpool for decades, and which mean which parts of my constituency have a life expectancy 20 years lower than the most affluent parts of our country, something which successive governments, red and blue, have tolerated for years, but thanks to the commitment from this government, we are finally serious about addressing. Those are some of the brilliant initiatives going on in Blackpool, but as ever, Blackpool being Blackpool, we always want more. And I hope the Treasury bench is listening to my final few requests for funding in Blackpool during this Parliament, and the differences this will make to our local economy and the lives of my constituents. The first of those is housing-led regeneration in the Bond Street, Waterloo Road and Revo areas of my constituency, all among the most 1% deprived neighbourhoods in the country. And the member for Surrey Heath has been absolutely fantastic in his commitment to Blackpool, and indeed levelling up more generally over the last few years. And this £30 million package he is currently working on in conjunction with Blackpool Local Council will really help to change those areas forever, giving them a new lease of life and addressing some of the systemic challenges which residents have faced in those communities for years. So I hope that work will continue, and we will get a commitment from DLUC for that funding, which is badly required. The second is a commitment to Blackpool Airport. Owned and run by the Labour-run Council, it used to operate successful commercial passenger flights throughout Europe, but given a lack of interest from the Council, that is now no longer the case. The government have brought in several changes which have really revolutionised the landscape of domestic aviation and regional airports, not least a cut to APD, but there is further work required around public service obligations to ensure that we can maximise the economic potential and job-creating growth places like Blackpool Airport can have, and that would be my second request this afternoon. Finally, a bit more of a national issue, but it is worthy of a mention considering that not a day goes by when I don't receive several emails from constituents about the lack of NHS dentistry. I've unfortunately spoken to some constituents who've told me harrowing stories about having to take pliers to their children's teeth because they can't afford a private dentist and there are no longer any NHS dental practice in Blackpool which are open to new patients. Quite shocking story considering we are in the 21st century. The government's recent changes to the NHS dental contract have been welcome, but there is far more work to do to address the issue of NHS dentistry, particularly in those so-called dental deserts like Blackpool, where few dental practitioners want to come to work. So I've indulged the House for far too long, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I take this opportunity to wish you and members an enjoyable recess. Thank you.